And next up, we have Dr. Alan Godfrey. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. An academician working as assistant professor in the Department of Social Work, St. Joseph's College, Bangalore. So here we have Dr. Alan with us. I'd like to invite you.
Thank you, Vishala. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. For me, when Abhirami called and called and then talked about this initiative, I was very happy that such a kind of talk is happening, because usually, uh, in the part of the place where I come from, we seldom hear such kind of conversations happening. So I was very happy that a talk is happening, and that too about feminism, getting to understand the perspectives of men. So thank you for inviting me here. Uh, I was actually looking at from a social worker's point of view, because my profession is social work. I teach social work, and I basically research a lot with the tribal population in the country. And we do have a lot of paper on gender studies. We have a lot of theories to study on feminist approaches and all. What I found out was, as a performing artist, also I'm also a performing artist. I'm a trained Bharatanatyam dancer, so we keep giving a lot of performances around the country. So I was trying to make a connect to find out, the sense of feminism, and why do we have to speak about feminism in today's context? The country seems to be developing. Everyone is given free and compulsory education at least until the age of 14, and then we have the legal age that is given to be 21. All those things are piling up, and little by little we are making things legal so that it's being practiced, and then we are trying to put things in place. But despite that, looking at the past, when we consider as human beings, when we came as human beings, how we have evolved throughout. We've been traditionally tribal population. We've been hunters and gatherers. At that point of time, I don't think that there was a segregation of the responsibilities. I mean, occupation was divided. Maybe there were norms being provided for people, but I don't think that there existed any gender discrimination as severe as we find out as of now. And especially during this COVID situation, I hope everyone knows that, after the curfew has started, a lot of cases have been reported of domestic violence and child abuse. So women have become vulnerable, children have become vulnerable, and they are becoming vulnerable day by day. And of late, the last 7 years, if you look at it, the number of cases that have come on molestation, child abuses, any kind of sexual violence that we see, gang rape, all these are seeming to be increasing day by day. It is here that, and I just wanted to understand how exactly did this happen. Traditionally, at the ancient times when we have been tribes, we've never had such a kind of thought. And then in between, somewhere it has come inside, and then it is now playing a very pivotal role. Gender is playing a very pivotal role, and very sad to see that three-fifths of the country's population comes from the rural sector, and in the rural vicinities, we cannot speak about gender discrimination, especially the place where I come from. I come from an interior village of Tamil Nadu. I was raised in a very conservative society as well. Till date, it is a taboo to speak about gender rights to many of my own friends who've been educated with me, who have studied masters in social work, and who are practitioners in social work. It includes women as well, not only men, because the moment I say it, we always associate only to men. Please do think that it is also a taboo for women as well. So, given the context, feminism for me, I would say that it is a choice that people need to take. I feel that as long as you have as long as you live in a family, you need to have a feminist approach, is what I feel. At least I was privileged that I was raised by parents who had equal, who had the division of roles to be very equal. These days we speak about unpaid care work. What women have a dual job, that is, they go for work outside, and then when they come back home again, they have to cook, they have to wash utensils and stuff like that. Those we call it as unpaid care work. I had the privilege of learning it from my father and mother, that they had the division of roles. My father, he used to finish his work earlier, and he used to come back home, so he had enough and more time. So he used to chop the vegetables and keep them ready for my mother to come, and then when she comes, she starts cooking. and we were all assigned a particular task. Myself, my elder brother, and younger sister, we were there. This week, if I'm making coffee in the evening, the next week my sister is supposed to take up, and I have to wash the utensils, and my brother is supposed to wash the clothes. So we had division of labor in our family very well established, though my parents were not educated much. So for me in person, I had a kind of upbringing that helped me to understand what is feminism. That is to consider everyone equal, irrespective of their gender. But in the country scenario, when I speak, it isn't the same. Like, wherever we go for rural camps with our students, we find out there are a lot of people who work in the panchayats. Every time there's a reservation being brought for women, they say that this panchayat is reserved as a women panchayat. Now, the panchayat president is a woman. We invite her to come for the inaugural celebration of the rural camp. The lady, when she comes, she says, first you go talk to my husband. You have to tell my husband, if my husband approves, then only I'll come. Then I have to be like, okay, fine, we'll definitely invite your husband. Then the husband also comes. They all sit on the dais, and then when I have to take the medal, the mementos or the shawl, they'll say, do you have two? The women ask me, do you have two? I say, yes, we have plenty. So first put it for my husband, then you come and put it for me. So there has to be two shawls for them because I'm inviting a female president and stuff like that. So I'm still thinking how it is in the rural vicinity. Forget the rural vicinities also. No, as I said, no, my own friends who've been social workers. Both have I have friends who have been married as social workers, men and women. When they've married and they settle down, then I ask them, how is it going on? Your friend, he never works. The girl who I know as a friend, she tells me, this fellow, he never works. He doesn't bother. Only he goes, he teaches, comes, and then takes nice rest. I come from work. I'm a HR working. I come back. I have to cook, feed everyone. Stuff like that. I ask, okay, fine. You have learned enough and more. Why don't you think? Why don't you ask him to do the work? And then and you can speak because you're a bachelor, you'll speak. So, forgetting the theories and other stuff like that, I still feel that feminism is something that has to be imbibed within the mind. It cannot be educated and said no, everyone has to do this, or I cannot expect the prime minister to come and say this week the men in the household will cook, next week the women in the household will cook. I cannot expect like that. Rather, I feel people need to open up. It's not only about man, it's not about women, it's about everyone. People need to open up to think and say, yes, I see my mother working all the time. What can I help with to my mother? And I say my wife is working all the time. How can I help my wife? People need to have such a kind of thought, because I feel all these approaches would make sense only when we start sparkling, when we have the spark in the mind to think and say, yes, this is right or this is wrong. And eventually, it's as Subodha also highlighted and he spoke, because I'm also Christian, you see that women were taken from the rib of men, and then a lot of interpretation goes about. And I've heard the religion also plays a pivotal role, specifically to speak about Christianity and Hinduism, not to criticize but to understand the concept of feminism that I see. Just because women were taken, I believe that, and our religion speaks so. Just because women were taken from the rib of a man doesn't mean that women is a subordinate to you. Rather, it says that you are in a process of mutual understanding. That's how it needs to be seen. I still remember a preacher who spoke to me who said that, women were taken from the side of a man. Rib is the side. So women were taken from the side of a man, meaning to say that she stands by your side and supports you at every point of time. So when somebody has to support you, how do you take it? Now, these are all interpretations that have to come. I mean to say that these are all interpretations that need to come so that people, when they're being religious, they understand and they open up. And not only that, even when I speak about performing, I think the first speaker, when he spoke about India has a lot of deities who are women. But it is so sad to find out that in all the scriptures that we read also, all these female deities, one side or the other side, have always been ruled by men. I come from Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Here we have a very special deity called Meenakshi. Now she's a very valiant person, very brave and courageous person. And all of a sudden, but every time I represent her and dance, when I have to represent her, she has to be very submissive. She has to be very pious. The way how she has to sit in the marriage is like she has to sit down, put her heads down. She has to sit so that Lord Shiva can come and put the tali around her neck and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering, why should it be like that? For a lady who was, she was a queen, for a person who was very majestic and valiant, why she couldn't stand with the same majestic that gait and then get her wedlock being tied. These are all questions when I ask, and even my dance guru doesn't want to enforce, and he'll be like, Godfrey, just practice and do what I say. So we don't get answers for all those things. But it's just a thought, why we don't think like that. No, take the other form of it, like the same, Parvati and Shiva that I speak about. Take Ardhanari for that matter. The concept of being powerful as like Shiva can never be himself without Parvati. Ardhanari, the concept of Ardhanari. Such kind of examples are not much being spoken. Though our religion has such kind of examples, we don't get to see so many people having such kind of examples being spoken, and very, very rarely we find out typical examples that we can pick out and tell for us. And I personally feel that, a lot of awareness has to go in the mind, not to speak in terms of men doing a role or women doing a role, rather to be, more open in doing whatever is possible. I like cooking, let me do cooking. My wife doesn't know to cook, it's okay, fine. You do the washing. I hate washing. So you do washing for me, let me do cooking for me. It should be as simple as that. But I don't understand, because specifically spoken, the girl, when she's about 22, 23, 24, she's being enforced. Like, so long the parents have pampered her. And all of a sudden they're saying, oh, look at the way how you're sitting, look at the way how you're watching TV, look at the way how you're laughing on the mobile phone. Why do you do this? Tomorrow you're getting married, you're going to someone's place. This concept of going to someone's place and, making the women to adjust with herself, making the women to, play typical roles that she's not interested about. These are all few things that has to be answered, I feel. And so for me, feminism, as I say, it should be in everyone's mind, where we tell them that okay, it's okay to divide responsibilities, it's okay to be comfortable to be each other, whoever you are, provided there is no bias being put inside. Always the concept of what will others think. It's not only in the context of gender that I speak about. Anything that you take, take caste for an example, take religion for an example. Uh, what would others feel? Who are these others to us? We need to think that who are these others to us? When my family is comfortable with me, why should I be bothered about others? When I'm more comfortable with me, why should I be bothered about others? So, if that is being answered, I think that a lot of issues that are revolving around us can be reduced. This is my perspective and my take on feminism.
So sorry, Alan, I couldn't catch the last bit that you mentioned, having some issue with the audio.
Okay. Should I repeat it for you?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you. Can you just, go the last bit that you mentioned?
Yes, and I was telling that, it is the position where I don't look at others. I do not look at others and what others might feel. Rather, I should be free to be who I am. Don't be constructed by what people say. These are the rules. Don't go by the rules that others set and give for you. Rather, you create your own comfort zone and live on it. That's what I mentioned.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. A round of applause for Alan, please, everyone.
Thank you.
Alan, that was wonderful, covering a lot of aspects of how patriarchy and feminism has been or not been in our society, the rural scenario, or even familial scenarios and everything. Really nice. And I'd like to ask you. So, I mean, you've in a sense you've been mentioning that, but particularly I actually have two questions, so let me choose. Okay, so what would you tell those friends? You said they are educated, they're doing masters in social work, which means they are in touch with this movement. It's not that they have never heard of it, or it's not uh, touched them and passed by, but it does, and yet they choose to subconsciously uh, choose the entitlement they have, or the privilege of being a male, that they have. So what would you tell, what would you tell them, or where is the starting point to bring about a change in that category?
Uh, Usually, when I see some place where gender discrimination happens, I don't tell people. Rather, I keep nudging them, because telling doesn't happen. At least with the friends that I have known, telling cannot help. So I keep nudging them until they follow it. I keep nudging them, and I've seen positive results as well, because they are my friends. They tend to listen to me. At least after some point of time, they tend to listen to me. So it has happened.
So do you suggest that all of us, men and women, and if we witness something like that being practiced, be it discrimination or patriarchy, anything, so we subtly or directly do intervene? You suggest that we do it?
For sure, we need to intervene, but as you rightly put forth with the word, like a confrontation in a very positive way. I mean, like you cannot go and barge inside suddenly, and then you cannot say, like like the same the rural panchayat that I spoke about. I cannot go all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden and say, like, no, come on, she's the panchayat president, get off the dais. I cannot tell the panchayat president's wife, husband. So, but I think in subtling ways we need to bring insight, so that the one who is being oppressed also needs to think that, yes, I'm being oppressed. If that sense is being put inside, or that question mark is being put inside, then they'll start answering for it. And the one who's a suppressor, I think they also need to understand it. Like where am I going wrong? I think it's about raising questions and making them think. If they are able to think, then I think a lot of questions can be answered.
So the movement is more, it begins from the individual, within the individual, and then it, extends to family, and then the circles, and then the society.
For sure, because the bias is built by us. We built the bias around us. Like you ask, even to many people that you go and ask and find out what is women equality for you. Somebody will say getting equal education, getting married at the equal age. Like the boy and the girl should get married by 25, means girl also can get married at 25. And somebody will say getting into the similar profession. Somebody will say doing equal work at house. Somebody will say equal pay at the workplace. So people build it at one point. Somebody puts a block at education level. Somebody puts a block at the rightful age for marriage. Somebody puts a block at the occupation. So somewhere down the line, everyone has a bias, and we need to be conscious of where that bias, and we need to reduce that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Allen.